Brazil's latest offensive against the crime syndicate, the Red Command, marks one of the bloodiest confrontations in the country's long war with organized crime, with over 120 fatalities. Rio de Janeiro state security forces launched Operation Containment, a sweeping multi-community raid across the North Zone's Penha and Alameo complexes and adjoining neighborhoods. Authorities framed the operation as a decisive push to halt the Red Command's territorial expansion and to capture faction leaders. The result was the deadliest police action in Brazil's history, with over 100 fatalities and a fierce debate over proportionality, public safety, and human rights. The state government described Operation Containment as the largest initiative against the Red Command, mobilizing thousands of personnel to execute hundreds of warrants across more than 24 communities. Reports from Rio and Brasilia indicate that around 2,500 agents were deployed at the height of the action, focusing on strongholds long associated with the Red Command's drug and arms trafficking operations. By the evening of October 29th, reports emerged of over 120 deaths, including police officers, placing the operation among the deadliest ever in Brazil. The Red Command is Rio's oldest and most emblematic criminal organizations, born in the late 1970s out of prison alliances and later supercharged by the cocaine trade. It is a formidable national syndicate with an estimated 30,000 members operating in roughly 20 states, with supply chains and safe havens extending into neighboring countries. The group is locked in persistent conflicts with rival gangs and in recent years has intensified a fight for Amazonian trafficking routes, a shift that has bled violence from the urban favelas into remote borderlands. The security forces showcase seizures of rifles, ammunition and narcotics, the neutralization and arrest of mid and high-level Red Command operatives, and the clearing of barricades that choked access to certain communities. Yet the human cost eclipsed the typical metrics of success. Streets and alleyways became battlegrounds, public transport and schools were disrupted, residents reported prolonged firefights and difficulty accessing medical care. Even as the state hailed the operational success, human rights monitors called the raid a tragedy and a policy failure, emphasizing that Rio's history of high lethality operations correlates poorly with long-term reductions in homicide or gang capacity. On one hand, many citizens, especially those frustrated by chronic violence and the gang control in the favelas, welcomed the show of force, seeing it as long overdue action against powerful criminal networks that seemed untouchable. On the other hand, there was alarm over how the operation played out, with residents describing fear and confusion over being trapped in the middle of firefights. Meanwhile, the federal government, led by Lula da Silva, faced challenges from the state leadership, which argued that it had not been given adequate support for such security operations. The government strategy may have scored headlines, but the broader public remains divided on whether this marks a turning point in the crackdown on organized crime or a repeat of a troubling pattern. Residents of targeted communities often live under hybrid sovereignty, negotiating daily life among factions, militias, and sporadic state presence. When a shock and awe raid ends, the vacuum may be filled by militias or rival gangs unless the state stays. Absent that, the Red Command and rivals can return, sometimes more violent but rarely gone. Operation Containment was conceived as a decisive strike against the Red Command's power in Rio, and by raw numbers, it delivered unprecedented force. Yet Brazil's experience shows that tactical lethality is not a strategy. To translate the crackdown into durable security, authorities will need to pair targeted policing with financial investigations, prison reforms, and community-level state building. Otherwise, the Red Command's resilience, its national footprint, and its opportunistic rivals will likely turn even this operation into another violent chapter, rather than an end to the story.
Been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing.